So, welcome
Thank
today.
You. Thank you.
And so, something interesting before we jump into everything is probably one of the most interesting things I've heard in a while was just a few minutes ago. And I was trying to figure out why you have a fascination of why you eat sticks of butter. Could you explain that a little bit?
Well,
Could you dive deep into that?
Right.
I have always loved butter.
Do a lot of people know that about you?
No, probably not.
Okay, good.
No, I can tell a funny story.
Please.
This was after I graduated from college. My mom and dad were having company that they had not seen in forever. And they were at the dinner table, and my mom brings out this, the butter in the nice container.
Yeah.
And they go to open it, and there's bite marks.
Out of the container?
Well, there's the stick of
Okay,
butter.
okay. I was like, are you like face plunging into the...
I like butter.
And my mom was like devastated. Oh my gosh, I knew who did that.
We'll
That's
just lop that
Danielle.
piece off. All right.
Yep. So I love butter.
So do you like a specific brand of butter?
No, I don't care.
You don't care?
No, I'm not picky.
So is there a difference between like butter and margarine?
Yeah, you don't want margarine.
No?
You want the real butter.
Real butter. I mean, what
Sweet,
is
cream, and salted.
unsalted or salted?
No, salted.
Sweet cream, salted.
Yes.
So you get a little salty sweet.
Yeah.
With your butter.
Yes.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. All right.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in.
There'll be a Land O'Lakes near you. All right.
We'll have to get a butter sponsor. All right, so guys, let me do a quick introduction. Today sitting with us is Danielle Rose. So she is from Iredell County.
Yes.
Originally. Went to arguably the greatest high school of all time.
Yes.
North Iredell. Graduated in 96.
96.
96. And we wanted to get her on the show today. There's been some things going on that's been posted on social media about you and your family, and because you are from our community, and because I think it's a very important topic that's not covered enough. There's just not enough people talking about it, and reached out to Danielle, and she thankfully agreed to come on the show and talk about some difficult things with us. So we appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
So just let's dive into a little bit. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about just you, your path, you and your husband, children, just kind of give us a little background.
Okay, so out of high school, went to nursing school, graduated from Mitchell Community College in 98.
So did I.
Oh, very good.
98.
Okay.
03.
Okay, so just a little bit later.
A little bit later. Well, I mean, it takes you 5 years to get a 2 degree. Who doesn't?
So then went to Charlotte, worked, met my husband, and came to Winston-Salem and worked at Baptist. Knew that I wanted to continue my education and went back to school for my bachelor's. Then went back to school for my master's, and now I'm a certified registered nurse anesthetist. Work at Baptist or Atrium Health, Wake Forest Baptist Hospital, in the pediatric OR doing anesthesia, nurse anesthesia. So I pass gas for a living. All the kids love to hear that. I married my husband 24 years ago. We waited about 7 years to have children. We have 3 beautiful, great children. Our oldest is 16, 14, and then our youngest is 12. 2 boys, and then our little girl is last.
Is your husband from Iredell County as well?
He's actually from Kernersville.
Oh, okay.
Kernersville, okay.
Yeah.
So you passed him, headed to Winston.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what does he do?
So he used to be a state trooper.
Oh, okay.
Then whenever Hunter was about 18 months old, he resigned from that and went to become a realtor, and he still has his realtor's license. Also did some stuff at Gander Mountain when that store was open, and also was able to stay at home when our children were younger to help out with that, because with 3 young children, it was going to cost more to put everybody in childcare.
Right,
So, but
yeah.
he has his realtor's license.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what all so he's got a lot going on.
He's got a lot going on too.
Busy man.
Yes.
We can sympathize with that.
He can sell your house then arrest you.
Yeah.
That's the best.
And get you outdoor stuff from Gander Mountain when that was going on.
When it was going on.
Yeah.
Kind of well-rounded.
He is.
Yeah, he is.
I feel like
Very
we should hang out with him.
he's a great guy.
He's got to have cool toys.
So you're married. Y'all waited several years.
Yes.
Y'all have 3 children. Tell us a little bit about each kid, if you
Okay.
don't mind.
So our 16-year-old, he's kind of like me. We just kind of take day by day. He knows what he wants to do. He wants to do what I do. He knows kind of the college he wants to go to. He's always done well in school, although he kind of waits to the very end to do his projects and everything.
Of course.
He played soccer, but then when he decided to go to the Davidson-Davy early college high school, he kind of had to let that go because he actually finished his high school back in his sophomore year, and now he's just working on college classes.
Wow.
And he's a junior, and he is driving. Our second child, he's 14.
Can we back up a moment?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
He graduated as a sophomore, but as a junior. So does he still go to class?
Yes. So he didn't graduate high school yet. He just got done with all of his classes as a sophomore.
So I was thinking he was 16 in college. Well, I guess he is taking college
Yeah.
courses, right?
He is.
Isn't that wild now?
Yeah.
I know.
Like
all
you could literally be like a freshman in college, but you're 17 or 16 years
Yeah.
old.
Like Doogie Howser.
In a way. I think Brian Gant's son can do that.
Yeah.
Or could have done that.
There's a lot of kids doing that, which is so crazy to me. I would have never
Yes.
been able to.
Well, nothing was
No.
offered like
True.
that at that time.
Yeah, I wouldn't have made it probably.
No, we were still drinking in the basement. Allegedly.
Our 14-year-old, he is an 8th grader. So he is a year ahead of London. Goes to North Davidson Middle School. He is like a bear on the outside, but a sweet teddy bear on the inside. Has manners, will do anything for anybody. Puts himself last above other people. And also plays soccer, but he quit whenever the older child quit.
Okay.
So he loves fishing and riding his e-bike, and so does my older son. He loves riding his e-bike. But Cooper, my middle son, he could definitely fish 24 hours a day if we'd let him.
Really?
Yeah.
There must be a thing. We have a Cooper, one of our buddies, his son Cooper, that lives in our neighborhood. He would fish nonstop if they'd let him.
Yeah.
Dude.
Just be outside.
Outdoors. Coopers and fishing, hand in hand.
That's a good stress reliever.
Yeah, it is.
I couldn't do it. I like catching. I don't like fishing.
That's how I am too. I want to bring them in.
If they're biting, it's
it's
fun.
way,
I like
way more
it.
fun.
On our honeymoon, I caught a blue marlin.
Really?
Where did you go
Yes.
on your honeymoon?
Well, we had a tiny wedding, and we saved our money for the honeymoon.
Sweet.
And we went to Tahiti and Bora Bora and Huahine.
So y'all went all out.
We went all out, but we were able to pay for it. We,
That little-
at that time we didn't have kids, and we had saved
Right.
up a lot of money, and boom.
Yeah. So have y'all been back?
No,
Okay.
no, we said 10 years, but at 10 years we had like 2 kids, and one was like a month old.
Right. See, that'd be difficult.
Yeah.
Not quite as fun.
No.
To travel. Not to travel.
And then our little girl, she is 12. Her name's London. And she has always been a different little child. She's as sweet as she can be. Up until 3, of course, she dressed in what we gave her to dress in, pink and purple and sparkly.
Right.
At about 4, she decided that was not her thing. And she, since then, has always had a very strong personality.
Yep.
And she likes riding horses. She likes art. She likes to cook. And she loves to bake, and she loves riding in the Jeep Wrangler outside with the windows down and singing female lyrics. And
What music does? What do y'all listen to? Is it like Taylor Swift?
oh no,
No.
no, we're not
goodness.
Swifties.
Okay, good. Yeah.
No, my daughter is definitely not on that. But she's more on. We like country, mostly
alright.
female lyrics. That's her.
Okay.
And she likes deep depth. I don't know. Alternative.
Yeah. So I would assume, I'm trying to think of she probably listens to a lot of stuff that my daughter listens to, but I'm brain freeze right now. I don't.
Yeah.
She sounds a lot like my 8-year-old daughter
Yeah.
who loves to bake. She loves horses. She loves art. She loves music, cooking. But my daughter's a Swiftie, unfortunately. I'm having to
Which
come
means
around
Brandon is a Swiftie as well.
Swifty at heart.
No, I stand my ground.
Sing us a song, Brandon.
Load 'em up. Oh, sorry, different artist.
So, kind of leading into this discussion and where we're going, and you talked about London, like up until 3. Is there like looking back, like just throughout her childhood, is 3 like kind of the age where you looking back, you think like something was starting to change then, or?
I think at that time we just thought she was a strong, hard-headed little girl.
Right.
I truly think things started changing more at like the COVID time.
Okay.
So around 8-ish?
I was going to say,
7,
like,
8?
so age.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She started dressing more baggy and more dark colors and, black and gray. And, so probably about 2020 is when I started. But nothing came, across bad. It just was that she was wanting to be her own person.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting now is that I look at my kids when I drop them off in the mornings to school. They're all wearing hoodies, baggy clothes, the oversized sweatshirt.
Yeah.
And that's what it was.
And I'm thinking, I make my kids one day a week wear something nice so they don't look like a slob.
Yeah, every single day.
Every single day. Just one day.
Yeah.
Just one.
Well, everything's so like athletic.
Yes.
Athletic
and comfortable.
Which, I mean, I love hoodies. I love a good hoodie. Love a good hoodie. Like I'm sitting there thinking, like I'm talking about people wearing hoodies,
and you're wearing a hoodie.
I should have dressed up a little more.
Well, you're not wearing a triple XL hoodie.
That's
with
true.
down to your knees.
That's true. That's true. So, COVID 2020, you're saying hits. So I'm assuming all of your kids they're at home.
They're at
on
home.
their MacBooks doing schoolwork.
Yep.
And is your husband home?
My husband's home at the
them?
time.
Okay. And so, like all kids, they're stuck at home. They're homework, gaming. I'm sure y'all had stuff to do, obviously outdoors, so they got to go out and do that. Did y'all, as a family, did COVID change things for you guys as a family?
No, to be honest, I think we were happy. I think we were so busy before COVID that it actually gave us time to be even closer. Like the activities kind of slowed down.
Yep.
We started cooking more. Before that we were doing soccer like 7 days a week, eating out all the time.
Right.
So to be honest, I truly think we felt that it became that we were closer.
Yeah. So oddly enough, my wife says probably once a month, like, I just kind of missed the COVID days.
Yeah.
Now, but you still had to work, right? Because the hospitals didn't shut down.
Well, in the ORs,
surgeries were down.
Yeah, surgeries were down. So about once a week every month, when they would allow us, I would take the week with no pay because I wanted to spend that time with my kids.
Sure.
I wanted to help with the homework, take the burden off a little bit of my husband doing that stuff. But yeah, I still worked. And yes, it was difficult.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and when I said that about Maria, it's not to make light, but that when you were talking about the cook and the not having to go and do, that's the part we missed, was like we got to just kind of be at home.
Yes.
And, we only had one kid in the house at the time, but you talking about that kind of brought back that memory of like, wow, it's kind of nice to just be at home.
It was nice.
Yeah. But yeah,
You can tell people no.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Hey, you want to come out? I can't.
Sorry, can't. Yeah. It was a difficult.
Got
time.
a scratchy throat.
Yeah. Difficult time, but there were some positives, obviously, with the family stuff. So once COVID's over, kids go back to school. I guess I'm trying to pinpoint. I don't want to rush through things, but one of the questions that I wanted to ask, is there a certain year or time or something that you think back to where you and your husband started having some discussions where maybe there was some concern about the children in general, but then starting to look more like at London and like starting to wonder certain things?
Actually, I think that's why everybody was so concerned with London, because she showed no signs. That's why everybody was like, all the psychiatrists said, London scares us because she didn't show any signs like most normal preteens or teenagers. She About a year before, she's 12, so that summer before when she was 11, she had become a young lady. So there's that. And she met some different friends that year too. And so for sixth grade, we noticed that she had started becoming more withdrawn from us. So that's the only thing. But then when I go to work or talk to my friends and I say, hey, what are your 12, 13-year-old, 11-year-old girls doing? Oh, we can't get them out of our rooms. We can't get them
Right.
off their phones. We can't get them off their phones from talking to their friends.
Right.
So we just thought, okay, this
So
is the
she's
normal
normal, right.
process.
Yeah.
And I've always been one that goes in like weekly, on a weekly basis. How are you doing? How was school? Anything good going on? Anything happy? Anything sad? Anything you need to talk to us about? No, I'm fine. And literally, she showed no signs.
So she hit it. She masked it well.
She was a great actress. And she said for 3 years that she was sad.
So go ahead. I was just going to say, so for people that are watching this and kind of wondering like, what are we talking about? So just to be clear, so your daughter at 12, she attempted suicide.
Yes.
When that happened, and we'll ask a little bit more about that, but when that happened, is that what kicked everything off as far as starting to think back, learning about things? Like, so up until that point,
Yes.
nothing.
Nothing.
So she didn't, during that time of just sadness for like 3 years, did she have an outlet for that? Did she draw or write in a journal or?
Yes, but we didn't know she was sad.
Right.
We
Right.
had no
And of course you wouldn't go
clue.
read her journal. I mean, I
Yeah.
wouldn't go read my
And
daughter's
that's
journal.
that's why I wish that she would have shown us something, because I would have searched. I would have
Right.
searched her room. I would
Yeah.
have searched her phone. But she never gave us any reason. And you don't want to break somebody's trust
Right.
So
if
would
you don't
you
have a
say
reason.
it's okay as parents if we have boys, daughter, this age? I'm not saying you break their trust, but if you could get in their phone, or
Yeah.
maybe the book is on the nightstand, you just want to.
I think it'd be fine.
It'd be fine to check in to see. It's interesting. A colleague of mine was just sharing with me this past week that her 15-year-old daughter, they think she has severe ADHD, and so they had her take some sort of assessment online or something or another, and she didn't know that her mom could read it. And so it asked these questions like, have you ever thought about committing suicide? Yes. Have you had a plan? Yes. Can you remember a traumatic time with your parents or whatnot? Yes.
Wow.
And she said it would just devastated her because she had no idea.
Yeah.
So what was the suicide attempt?
Okay, so completely normal evening.
Mhm.
Me and her go out to do an activity that she loves, which is riding in the Jeep. That is supposed to be eventually hers. I don't know, we may have to sell it. But it's supposed to be hers, so we're riding in the Jeep, doing our thing, going in the country, listening to songs. Get home, evening's going great. Go to bed, and she takes my husband's prescription medicines without us knowing, like around midnight. And that's how she attempted.
And so, how did you guys find out? Did y'all a couple hours later? Like, kind of walk us through.
So, thank goodness she chose a prescription medicine that had some forgiveness.
Okay.
She didn't pick like a blood pressure medicine. It was Lexapro.
Okay.
So it does have some forgiveness, thank goodness.
Right.
I get up. I have a really hard case that morning, so I get up really early, like at 4:30. And since we've had children and since I've been married, I always write notes for everybody, personal little notes, and every single morning. So I do my notes. I go around and I give everybody hugs and kisses. I don't wake them up. And actually that morning, I think she's like laid like this on the bed, and I'm like, wow, she looks so peaceful. And I kiss her, and she's fine. She doesn't wake up. She's still warm, and I go to work. I don't know anything's happened. I get to work, and my husband's like, call me. And I'm like, okay. He never writes that. So I call him and he's like, Danielle, he said, I really have a bad feeling. Did you do anything with my prescription meds? And I said, no. I said, I did get some ibuprofen this morning. I said, maybe I knocked off your prescription bottle. I said, look for it on top of the fridge because, that was the highest cabinet and we put our prescription meds up there. And so about 10:30, I'm done with my case and I get another text, Danielle, please call me. So he had not found the bottle yet. He had ransacked our daughter's room. He had also, looked through the boys' room, but we just had a feeling it might be her. Mm-hmm. And then finally he found it and it was empty, completely empty, 50 or 60 pills of Lexapro and also a water bottle that looked like it was white and it looked like it had pills that had been halfway. Yeah. So that one was halfway done. And so I'm like, okay, I'm just going to tell work I've got to go. We're having a family emergency. And I left. I said, David, you go get the children from the school. I'll call the school, tell them that, the guidance counselor needs to get London and Cooper.
So she was awake and went to school?
She was.
Okay.
Wow. Yes.
That's what I was wondering. Was
she was.
So she got up that morning, got dressed, went to school.
Acted completely normal.
Right.
My 16-year-old took all the kids. Whenever I get home and my husband has her, we meet together at the house. I look at her and I can tell meds are in her system, but the school didn't.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Her eyes were dilated. They were glassy. She's shaking. She's nauseated. She has a horrible headache. So she's taking medicine. Mm-hmm. And I look at her and I'm like, London, what did you do? And she just kind of shrugs her shoulders. I said, go in the house, go pee, and then we're going to the hospital. And so my husband stays with the boys and I drive normal. I know she's okay.
Was there any resistance from her to go to the hospital? No. So she knew.
She knew.
Right.
Yeah, she knew.
And she still hasn't owned up to anything yet.
No.
Right. Okay.
No. And so me and her go. I'm driving normal because I know she's fine. She's having signs and symptoms for the medicines, but she's okay. I get to the emergency room with her with the empty pill bottle and with the water bottle, and I said, ingestion, and they immediately look at her and get her back. And when we're there, they get her into a gown. One of the doctors comes out and talks with me and says, do you know that she attempted 2 years ago? And I said, nope, I had no clue.
So at 10 years old, she had tried to commit suicide.
Yeah.
And I guess she had told them that during their assessment.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at that time at 10, which we had no clue about, she had actually, I guess, got out of the house somehow because at 10 we didn't let her walk in the neighborhood by ourselves or by herself. Gotten out, took a rope with her and tried to hang herself in the neighborhood woods. But she said, but the rope broke.
Wow. Okay. And so when she tried that, she obviously had a plan, did it, the rope broke. Did she have any sort of ligature marks, anything
Not
around
that
the neck?
we
Right,
noticed.
not that you noticed, because she could have wore a turtleneck and hid them for
and that's
a while.
what she's
Well, you
always
weren't
done.
looking for it.
No, we
course.
weren't looking for it. We had
Right.
no clue.
Right.
And that's what she always wore big clothes. Even in the summer, she'd wear long sleeves, which now kind of makes sense. Because also, when the doctor was talking to me, she said, now, do you know that she's cutting?
That was my next question.
And I
actually.
said, nope. And she said, well, just be ready. She said, it's not once. And I was like, okay. So I go in, and of course, it's a short-sleeved hospital gown, and all up and down her arms are cuts. And so she actually, I have it in here. She actually had written out a plan, which I found after she was admitted to the hospital. Because at that time, I literally ransacked her room and looked for everything.
Right.
And found a plan that was very specific. That said, at 8:20, which was that normal evening, going on the Jeep ride, come out and talk with Mom and Dad. 8:30, tell them I love them. 9 o'clock, go to bed. 9:30, pretend I'm asleep so mom doesn't know. 10 o'clock, get the stuff. 10:15, turn on music and start cutting. 12 o'clock, take the meds and hope not to wake up. And goodbye.
So, what is your first conversation like with your husband? Like, can you talk about just as parents, like?
Well,
Because I imagine there's a lot of like self guilt.
yeah.
And I mean, your first conversation, like you said, he's at home, you're at the hospital.
Yes.
I'm assuming once you started learning all this, when you first get a chance, you're calling him.
Yes.
What is that conversation like?
He couldn't talk, to be
I'm
honest.
sure. Yeah, that'd be tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're just trying to like go through here's what I'm
Yes.
learning, and he's just.
And I think with me being kind of in the medical field,
yeah.
I'm handling it kind of like a medical person on the
Yep.
outside
Right.
and kind of like a mom. So I don't think I acted like the normal
Right.
crying, upset. I was very calm because I knew what was going on now.
Right.
And I think I was able to kind of put myself outside of the situation too.
I was gonna say you probably jumped into the medical
Yeah.
mom handler, and I'm sure none of it's really sunk in yet on that
No.
mom level.
Right.
personal
Or as my
level.
wife
Right.
would say, cold. You got very cold. These are your children. They're not patients.
And
That's right.
And there is, I do because of my wife too. There is a difference in somebody who's not in the medical field
Right.
versus somebody who is. I've
Right.
seen it with Brandon. I've seen it with my wife. Like y'all can handle things very differently when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah.
Which is, kind of a blessing probably at that moment.
Oh, yeah,
so that
'cause-
you could help people through this. You know?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. But we get rub dirt on it. They're fine.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
sick little
That's
sick.
right. I see all sorts of stuff in the OR, and I'm like, oh, it's just blood. Just, wipe it off
Yep.
with some water. You're good.
Exactly.
But
So-
this was different.
This
This
is
was
different.
not
You
a
can't
broken
see
arm.
that.
Right.
No, you
Yeah.
can't take an X-ray and fix this. You
No.
can't put a cast on it. You can't. It's a lot. more.
So you're learning all of this. You've learned about the cutting. So were there scars and stuff where she had been cutting over a period of time?
So she was smart. She was cutting suprapubically and also upper thigh.
Yep.
So we had no clue.
Right.
So
Yeah.
she, during her crisis after midnight, right before taking her medicine that night, she literally cut herself. What she did, how she cut herself was she took a blade out of her school pencil sharpener and took the blade out and was having such a crisis that night that she literally cut from her wrist all the way up, both sides, suprapubic and upper thigh. About 175 times 3 to 4 inch cuts.
That night.
That night. And before, she had been doing it suprapubically and upper thigh. And, I kind of wondered, she hadn't gotten to the pool much during the summer. And we just thought, oh, she's just being her, just growing up.
yeah,
just,
she's growing,
she doesn't
yeah.
want to be with us all the time.
Right.
But then it made more sense where...
In the emergency department, I would see, folks who would cut, the typical places, the forearms, even the upper thighs. But is suprapubic, is that as common or less common?
I think it's less common. I think upper thighs is definitely
Yeah.
more
Right.
common.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're learning all of this. They're telling you all of this. Are you able to see her shortly after learning all of this?
Yes,
Or
I go in immediately after and sit with her. I'm with her the whole entire time.
and are you having conversations with her then, or are you thinking like we've got to get all of this handled now? Or were you asking questions like
I was
what
asking
happened
questions.
last night?
Yeah, I was asking questions. And she was just kind of shrugging her shoulders. And actually, she was smiling. I mean, she had no remorse, no tears, nothing.
Was there like a traumatic event that happened, like
Not
in her
we-
childhood
not
that
we
she
know
said?
of. And that's what we're trying. That's what we're
Right.
trying
So
to
what's going
figure
on
out.
now?
Yeah.
Did they at the hospital were they able to determine like how much of the medication was in her system?
She told us that she took 6 pills, and then she got to where she was having a hard time taking the pills. So that's when she decided to put them 40 to 50, maybe 55 pills into the water, shake them up, and then she drank about half of it. She said she was planning on drinking all of it, but it tasted so bad, that's why she did not drink them all.
Okay. So they don't have, they're not able to tell you like she had X amount in her system, but so it's just kind of basing it off of
what she said.
Okay, her report. Okay. And then what happens next?
So we're at the hospital for 24-hour medical, and then we switch over that morning. Actually, I am, I'm having to tell work that, okay, my daughter is in the emergency room and now we're being admitted. So then that morning I'm laying there with a sitter because, you go to a special room where the patient can't hurt themselves.
Right.
Your purse has to be outside. So I'm laying there and I have my back towards London and because she's asleep and towards the sitter. And I'm just thinking, what do I do? What do I tell people? Do I not? How do I go about this? And I pray about it. And so then I'm like, I got to tell my work. And so I send a text out and tell them what happened. Then pretty shortly after that, my husband and her brothers get to come for just very shortly. And then we are escorted by security to the adolescent behavioral health unit after we talked to the pediatric psychiatrist. The pediatric psychiatrist said, oh, this will take about 15 minutes. And she asked London, do you want your mom in here or do you not? And she said no. So I stepped out and she was like, be back in 15 minutes, and then I'll talk to you. Well, after like 45 to 50 minutes, she finally came out and she kind of took a deep breath and she said, is there a quiet room anywhere to the nurse? And so then I thought, okay, this is deeper than,
Yeah.
And so me and her go to a quiet room. We have a talk and she literally looks at me and she says, sit down. And I sit down. And she says, I am so sorry. And I said, well, thank you. And she said, she meant to die. And I said, I know. And she said, she scares me. And she said, I personally have not met a young child like yours in a long time. She said, usually children show some sort of signs. She said, I know she didn't. And I said, no, she didn't. And she said, she is numb. She's showing no remorse, no tears. She said, all the children, or most of the children we see that come in here for suicide, say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, and they're crying and they're upset, and they didn't, I didn't mean it. She said, she meant it. She doesn't want to be here.
So how do you process that? How, as a mom, how do you hear those words, and how do you process that?
To be honest, at that point, I would have thought that I would have been crying, but I don't know. I've always been such a positive person that I'm like, okay, let's get whatever's got to be done. We've got to do something. Let's get on with how we're going to figure this out. And I think that's just how I've always been. Like, if there's a problem, how do we fix it?
And so, but you have 2 other children at home.
Yeah.
How do you sit the boys down and explain this to them? What was that like?
We're very honest with our kids. And immediately when Cooper knew, because my husband went and got both of them. My oldest son didn't know as soon because he was still at school. And my husband talked with them while I was at the hospital with her. And we sit down after I get home and they completely understand what happened. My oldest one is extremely religious, so he was really upset, really angry with her. The middle one has issues with some anxiety, so I think he's definitely been closer to London, and so he's felt it deeper. But they're doing good. I think they just want her to get the best care that she can and to get better.
Because when there's a situation like this, it's a ripple effect. It doesn't just affect you; it's affecting your husband, and it affects them, the boys. And you have to not only manage your daughter, be your own emotions and then the emotions of 2 other children and also be supportive for your husband. That's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's why I decided I pretty immediately knew that a leave of absence from work was gonna have to be a necessity to get us through this situation.
And so you decide, absolutely, because what do you, I mean,
Yeah.
you can't be at work, right? 'Cause
No.
your job is very important.
Yeah.
You have to focus, right?
Yeah.
Kids' lives are in your hands.
Right.
And how your employer, how have they been with the I need a leave of absence?
Awesome.
Awesome? Good.
Awesome. Like my boss, his name's Rich. He's an awesome boss. We're all like a big family. So they have all been extremely supportive. And that was actually, I'll jump ahead a little bit, but that's actually one of my coworkers is the one that was like, Danielle, please let me do a GoFundMe. And at first I was like, no, because I've always been an extremely independent person and don't like to ask for anything. And I was like, no, we're not doing that. Not yet.
And let me back up a little bit before. So you guys are sitting there at the hospital. You're talking to this lady. What time frame are we talking? Are we talking like 2022, 2024, 2023? What? So London's in the hospital. You're having the conversation with. Is she a psychiatrist or?
Yes.
So when was that? The time frame of this? Was
Like
it this year?
Yes, it was
Okay.
September 4th that she attempted, 5th when we were in the hospital.
Oh, so we're talking
September.
3 months ago.
Yeah, very, very.
I knew it was more recent, but I wasn't sure of the time frame either.
Yeah, September.
So it's still fresh.
Yeah, I just went back to work last week.
Okay. How was it being back at work?
It was okay. I mean, not this week, but last week I went. It was great seeing everybody. It's great taking care of patients. Of course, I'm still thinking about London and our family, but I feel that I am able to take care of the patients safely.
Now, London, is she at home?
No, she's at a facility in Montana.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's going to lead to this. So you guys she's met with the psychiatrist. The psychiatrist says
she needs help,
She's scared.
and
Psychiatrist is scared.
we are scared of this little girl. Yes, she needs help.
And then so you guys are released. How much longer are y'all there?
So I go with London to the lockdown behavioral health unit, and they have very strict rules of when and who can come in and when you can call. She is there from 9/5 to 9/17. And you're supposed to be that most kids are there from like 3 to 5 days.
Right.
She's there from 9/5 to 9/17.
Okay. And while she's there, are you guys going to appointments for medication management, meeting with psychiatrists, like kind of walk us through while she's there? Obviously it's for safety, but I'm assuming that things are starting to be put in motion of like, what are we going to do?
So she's there. We visit literally every single visiting hour, which is twice a day. And to be honest, I loved the people there. I think the group of doctors could have done a little bit better with communication.
Surely not. Doctors who under or don't communicate at all?
Yeah. I mean, they were great. It's a great group there. I work at Baptist. But like I said earlier, it's not a broken arm. The very first person who called me was a social worker, which she did great. And then, yes, she started talking about what types of programs London would be in. The next person that called me was a student, some sort of student. And so doctors weren't talking to me.
Right. That's a tough call for a student to
Yeah,
make,
and it was a student.
Yeah.
And so then finally I was like, I wrote a letter and I was like, look, can somebody please talk to my family and I about what is going on, what the plans are. So really there was not a lot of communication about what we should be doing at this time. We were just so shocked that we were going and visiting for the 15 minutes that you could visit and talking to her when you could. And that's the part that I really feel like we were kind of lost because we didn't know what else to be doing at that time. We had never been in this situation.
Right. It's new. And you guys have, like you said, you've never been in this situation, so you're not aware of what providers are in your area, what programs are in your area.
Nothing.
So even if they were, these questions are for people because I work in mental health.
Yeah.
It's hard to navigate.
Yeah.
And especially people that have no clue what's going on, like you've never had to do this.
Yeah.
So if they were to even say, like, Danielle, we think she needs these medications, y'all should look at like a children's ACT team or an intensive in-home team, would y'all even know what that was?
No. I mean, I've been in the medical field since 98 and I had no clue.
Right.
It seems like they're like a care coordinator. They're like, okay, this is what's happening.
They're supposed to be, but it depends on insurances as well. So, and we'll talk some insurance stuff shortly. But yes, Brandon, there are care coordinators in mental health, but it's based on insurances, and some don't have those.
And I mean, when they did decide to put her on medicine, they would call and ask, of course, like, this is what we want to try. Are you okay with it? Sure. I mean, yes.
I mean, what are you going to say? Yeah.
Yes, please.
So she's there, not a lot of communication. And then do y'all get a phone call like, hey, today's the day we're discharging?
Yes, there was, I can't remember the doctor's name, but she did say, I think within the next couple of days, London, I think we'll be ready. And I was like, okay. So then we sit down with the social worker at the end for discharge. And that's it.
And they were just going to discharge her with some recommendations.
Yes. And, no, the social worker had in place to go see on the 18th two psychiatrists, pediatric psychiatrists, and then to go see a therapist on the 18th in the evening time. And that was it.
Right.
I just feel like
That was it.
London isn't checking all the algorithm boxes. Like, okay, well, guess what? Fever, Tylenol. Okay,
right.
Check. I feel like she's over here in her own, like she's off the chart over here.
Yeah, she was.
So we're not, like, we need something a little extra, a little something more.
Because, I mean, to be honest, like
immediate.
Yeah, and on the paperwork it does say like Daymark Crisis Center. Here's some names of therapists. If you need them, please call them. So we went the next morning to the pediatric psychiatrist, and it was a fellow.
So she comes home.
So she comes home.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Me being trying not to be a helicopter dad or parent, but I have a tendency. And then I'm thinking in my mind, like, okay, I'm thinking of my daughter. If she comes home, I don't want to make her feel bad. I don't, all those things. But do I remove her door off the hinges?
Well,
do I have her sleep with us?
We seriously talked about that. But since the boys have friends that come over that are boys, we decided to keep her to have privacy. I would get up. I set my alarm every 30 minutes to every 45 minutes. I slept either on the den couch or in her bed or in her floor or in our middle kid's room and let him sleep in our room. So I was getting up every 30 minutes to every 45 minutes.
And just checking on her.
And she was not allowed, like in the daytime, she was not allowed to lock her door. Of course, we would check on her pretty much.
And did she... How did she respond to those type of things? Like, what was her?
She was mad. She didn't feel like she needed to. I mean, she was mad.
She was mad.
She would literally almost push me out of her bed. Like, Mom, do not sleep with me. Right. Mom, do not sleep in my floor.
Well, and tough.
Yeah,
because
I'm
right.
here.
I'm
here.
So how long do you go of basically not sleeping? I mean, are you?
Well, she gets home on the 18th. And she gets back in there on 10/1. She has another episode.
So for a while.
For a while.
So you're exhausted. You're not working.
When you say
scared,
episode, what do you mean?
Well, can we go back to the 18th?
Yeah.
Okay. So September 18th, we see two psychiatrists, a fellow and her attending, and they're great. They're wonderful. They take London back there for they said, oh, it's going to be about 20 minutes. Again, it's about 50. And then London comes out, and then we go back in there by ourselves, and they talk to us. And once again, we have not met a young child like London in a long time. Same thing. So they start talking about us needing to maybe think about short or long-term care facilities, which personally I knew that they existed, but I didn't really know anything about them.
Right.
And that was so far off our radar that my husband was like, oh, surely we're not going to need that.
Right.
But they gave us a name, Brittany Todd, and they said, here's her number. Call her as soon as you get home. She will know what fits London best. And so immediately I come home, I call her, and she listens to the story, the complete story, and she says, Turning Winds. Here's Eric Loesch's number. Here's transportation's number. Call them immediately. Get her there ASAP. This is the day after she's come home from the locked down facility. And so from then on, I start my research about these types of places. And then I find that this place cost like $87,000 every 6 months. The transport out there would cost $8,000 to $15,000. And I'm like, how do I get her out there?
These are like numbers you would hear like with Dr. Drew on Celebrity Rehab.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
I mean, that isn't.
And this is in Montana, right?
So insurance doesn't cover that.
No.
This is.
I mean, you could. It depends on what insurance you have.
Right.
It does.
And so then,
Let me ask this question real quick. So what about this place? So they didn't give you a list of like,
no, she
here's
said,
some that are close by, and this is the place.
This
and
is
why
the place.
Why was this place recommended?
This lady who is a therapist, and she has lots of stuff behind her name. She's wonderful. She's probably one of the most amazing therapists I've ever spoke with. And I've not spoke with many, but she seems great. Brittany Todd. She has history herself as a patient, and now she has made it to where she owns her own therapy company. She has had children go out there and with the best results that have been similar to London.
Okay.
And similar to London's situation.
Okay.
So she knew right off the bat. I mean, it didn't take her probably 2 minutes to come up with that.
Okay.
Wow.
So then I start researching. That night or that evening at 6:30 p.m., London goes to her first therapy session ever in her whole life, besides what she just did at the hospital. She loves her first therapist. And I think they connected immediately, and I almost saw a little bit of spark in London, kind of excited. So we were excited. That was Wednesday. And then on the 21st of September, which was a Saturday, we were supposed to have another therapy session. And at 9:30 in the morning, this specific therapist calls me and says, Danielle, I am so sorry, she said, but I spoke with my supervisor, and me and her do not feel that I should take care of London. She said, with her acuity,
Right.
we don't feel comfortable taking care of London. And I was like, okay, well, what do I do now?
Right.
So she said, don't give up. You start looking. I'll start looking. I'll get back with you. So immediately I call the hospital, try to get in touch with the social worker. Well, it's Saturday, so.
For some who are listening, they might say, well, what does that mean, her acuity? What does that mean?
She was continuously thinking, I want to kill myself. I want to come up with a plan. I want to cut. I want to self-harm. I don't want to be here. I want to run away. Mm-hmm. So she probably needed to be in a facility besides home.
Right.
And that's the part. Like, we were let go. She was discharged, and then boom, you're supposed to be normal, which she was not.
Right.
And so then,
So you're sitting home. We can't take care of her. Q level too high. We're not equipped for her to be part of our care because it becomes a liability issue. Is sadly that's what all
like
that
if she
means.
was to kill herself and she's taking care of her right before, then
Yeah. And
Gotcha.
that's another downside of things on the mental health side. So you guys are sent home. So now you're back at home again with no therapist.
Right.
She's on her medications,
Right.
taking medications as
Yeah,
prescribed.
she doesn't
or
feel in. Yeah, she's taking her
nothing's
medicines.
changing.
Nothing's changing. Nothing's different. She is still trying to actively come up with a plan.
I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, do you trust her to take the medicine, or are you
I
giving it to
watch
her?
her.
Okay, I feel like you're in prison. Okay, open your mouth.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
you literally have to watch her. Like,
And so, what is your just as a whole? What is your family like right now?
right now, like
During this time,
Yeah.
during this time.
like you're sent home, all this is going on. Like, what's your family?
So
like
I want to
over-
try to keep it as normal as possible.
Right. But is everybody in the house just
On
trying
eggshells,
trying
or
to be normal, but at the same time like scared to death?
Yeah. I mean, I think the boys, they took it pretty well, to be honest.
Yeah.
We tried to just keep them going to school
Yeah.
and keep it as normal as possible. They had friends still come over. We kept it. We felt that it was important to keep their
Yeah.
normal lives going. Of course, my husband and I, it's definitely been rough.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean,
how
mean,
could
do
it
you-
not be?
do y'all have time? And anything we ask, feel free to
No,
just
it's
be
fine.
like, I
Our
passed,
safe word is pineapple. So if there's
Pineapple.
something you don't want to answer,
or nutcracker
Or
or
something.
whatever. Are y'all having moments where it's like everybody's asleep? There's like a moment of like just where y'all can just be and you're just like devastated, crying, like what do we do? Like,
No, I seriously.
are you still just
I'm
in
still just in the hey, let's
just
get
trying
this.
to fix it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've all shown our emotions at different times.
Right.
Like my husband's was whenever I was still at the hospital with London.
Yeah.
And of course, I think everybody, like me and him, we've probably been a little bit more down and maybe not quite as talkative.
Right.
But I think I've just always been the positive one. Like, okay,
Yeah.
we've got to figure this out. We've
Right.
got to stay positive for our other kids. London right now, she's fine. She is like where she's at right now. She is being taken care of. We have got to realize that we have two kids here.
Yeah.
We have each other, and we have to take care of each
Right.
other.
that kind of goes back to those whole, needs of like emotional needs of your children, your husband, yourself. You guys are doing this whole like dancing act of self-care, but also being a support system for each other.
Each other.
And that is like mental and emotional gymnastics.
Just,
Yeah.
and exhausted.
Yeah.
You have to be
Yeah.
exhausted.
Well, I've always said, we've been married 24 years, and me and him both said, okay, marriage, we do it one time.
Yep.
And death do us part, and
Yeah.
for better or worse. And to be honest, like when you go through something like this, you can't give up on each other
Right.
or anybody in your family. You've got to actually become stronger and just get through it.
Well, kudos to you, because this
Yeah.
is something that could really like not even divide, but just
Just
absolutely devastate,
yeah.
rip people.
rip
rip
the whole
them apart.
family apart.
You've got to be positive, because if you rip, I mean, we've talked about this. If you rip the family apart, what's that going to do?
Right.
It's
Right.
going to be worse.
It's going to be even worse. Yeah.
So she goes to. Well,
She
let's
goes
talk
to
about
therapy.
this. So y'all find a therapist.
Yes.
And she starts therapy over again.
Yes.
So another sad part, and I feel like it's important to kind of throw some of the mental health side of
Yeah.
things. Another important part of this that makes it difficult is every time you start with a therapist, you have to start over.
Yes.
And you have to
And
retell the story.
That's hard
Yeah.
on a kid.
It is. She's having to retell the story, answer all the questions, and it's just starting over, build rapport. Maybe this therapist doesn't have good rapport, so then it's like a kid is not going to go very in depth with them. They're going to answer the basic questions, and kids are super smart and know what people want to hear,
Yeah.
and they're going to answer the questions. Especially someone like she seems to be, that's maybe going through the motions, but still like, well, let me just answer these questions so I can get back over here to making a plan.
Right.
Exactly.
So y'all are going through the motions again. So you start with another therapist.
Yes.
Okay.
So on Monday, I finally get in touch with the social worker at the hospital, and I tell her what's going on, and she says, well, okay, let me try this person. And she tells me what place in Winston-Salem it is. And so she said, I'll CC you on the email so you know what is going on. I said, okay. So I don't hear from her. This is 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11:30, 12:30. I have no email. So I called the place myself. And I'm like, hey, this is what's going on. And they're like, I'm sorry, we don't have anybody. We have no one that can talk to your 12-year-old suicidal daughter. But here's 3 more people. And I have them written down all in this book. So then I called those 3 people. And I think I talked to one person. They were like, well, here's another person. So it was just me, honestly, like on the phone all the time. So finally I go back to the first person. And she said, well, I do have a student. Like, great. Okay, well, it's better than nobody. And she's like, but she doesn't graduate until 2026. I'm like, oh, okay, great.
But she's gonna be great.
She's gonna be great.
I am fast. I am so upset. Like, you're doing all the legwork.
Yeah, that's why I'm off of work, because I literally am working 8 hours a day on the phone.
You're being a social worker, a care coordinator at this time.
Coordinator, a wife, a mom.
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
This is so broken.
So then I find this student, and we start going to therapy with the student. And the student was sweet, and she's going to be wonderful. But she takes London up there by herself and talks with her. And then London comes down, and then we go back up there and talk with her. And with me, she is getting red-eyed and teary. Well, then after the therapy session, we get back in the car, and I'm like, London, how did it go? And she said, Mom, are you serious? She cried the whole entire time.
The therapist cried.
The therapist cried. So I'm like, well, I'm trying to find you a therapist that's not a student. I said, but for right now, we need to talk to her. So we do this 2 and 3 times a week for the period of 9/21 to 10/1.
Okay.
So then, same thing. Can't find anybody. We're talking to the student. She's still tearing up. 10/1. So, okay, London gets back to school pretty quickly after the first time getting out of the hospital. My mom, heart and stomach didn't feel that was the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like we were kind of putting a Band-Aid on something that was festering under here.
Yeah.
Sure.
But everybody else wanted to do it, so I went along with it. We did a purple card thing. That was her safe thing, like in school. If she held up her purple card, the teacher would see it, and the teacher would let her go and talk to the safe person, which was the SRO officer, and they were great. The school was wonderful.
So you guys put like a safety plan or something into place?
Yeah. And we let the school know exactly what was going on.
So you were able to work with them, and they were on board, and okay.
Yeah, like before, like when something like that happens to a child in school, they have to sit down. You sit down with the principal, the vice principal, each guidance counselor, the social worker, the school, everybody.
Are they checking her bag when she comes, when she leaves?
They are keeping an eye on her.
Yep. And at this point, other kids know too, I'm sure. So is she embarrassed, or is she just
No, she doesn't act embarrassed.
Okay.
Not at all.
Man, she's tough.
She's tough. She's a tough kid.
Yeah.
So then the guidance counselor on 10/1 at about 11:30 calls me and says, Danielle, I think you need to come get London. And I said, no, okay, what's happening? She said, she's fine. She's been in the guidance counselors for about 30 minutes now. She said, I asked her on a scale from 0 to 10, 0 being the best day that you've ever had, to 10 being when you tried to attempt suicide. Where are you at today? And she said about an 8. And she said, okay, where were you yesterday? About a 7. Where will you be tomorrow if you don't have some sort of intervention? Probably an 8 or a 9. She said, are you actively coming up with a plan? She said, yeah, I'm trying to. And so that's when the guidance counselor said, okay, we're not comfortable.
Right, can't have her.
So then I come get her, and I'm like, what do I do now? So then I thought back to our discharge papers that had Daymark Crisis Center, and I get home, and I call them, and she's in Concord at the moment, and so she makes her way to our house within about 40 minutes, and London and her talk outside for about 45 minutes, and then she has me come outside, and I talk to her, and she says, you need to immediately get her to the hospital. and you need to think about long or short-term care after she gets out. London did not want to go back to the hospital.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But she did. She went with us. Go with me.
So you go to the hospital.
Go to the hospital. So
and
now,
then it's just going through the motions again, right?
yeah, I knew exactly what we were going to be doing.
Right. And you knew what they were going to say. You knew y'all were going to be released again.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it's just.
It's like it's a cycle.
It is.
And I personally did not want London to be the number just a number in a cycle.
Yeah.
We go in. We go to the psych area of the ED, which literally at the Baptist Hospital is probably a good third. The whole back hall is for psych patients. We're there for 25 hours, and about 23 of those are SpongeBob on the TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
And about 1:30 in the morning, when the pediatric psychiatrist comes and talks with me and says, "You don't have to wake her up, just come talk with me." And so we talk, and he says, "I really feel like she needs to be involuntarily admitted again." And I said, "Okay." And he says, "Do you want the bad news?" And I was like, "Yeah, what's the bad news?" And he says, "We don't have any beds."
Of course not. We don't have a bed. Yep.
And I'm like, "Okay, so what does that mean?" And he says, "Well, if she's involuntarily committed, then we will find her a place and we'll transport her there." I said, "Well, do I have a say-so in that?" And he said, "Well, no, not really." And I was like, "Well, I want to know, where she's going to be." So, of course, I stick by her side the whole entire time. And he said, "Don't worry." He said, "It usually takes a long time, so don't get in a panic." And I'm like, "Okay." So I stay with her the whole entire time. And that morning, one of the psychiatrists that we had known from upstairs before comes down. And London, actually, she really likes this one. And he comes, he says, "Do you want the good news or the bad news first?" And I was like, "I'll take the bad news." And he says, "Well, we don't have any beds." "Okay, what's the good news?" And he says, "Transport's already been, and we have a place at Bryn Mawr." And I said, "Wait a second." I said, "Where's Bryn Mawr?" And he said, "Towards the coast." And I was like, "No, she's not going to Bryn Mawr." And he says, "Why not?" And I said, "Well, I've done my research and I have my reasons. And she's not going to Bryn Mawr." And he says, "Well, I think that may be too late." I said, "It's not too late for me." I said, "I know where her clothes are and I'll go get them, and I will leave AMA and I'll go to Presbyterian or Moses Cone." And so then he was like, "Oh, well, hold on a second." And then he came back after a few minutes and he says, "Never mind." He said, "We have a child that's being discharged. Are you okay with waiting for a little while?" I said, "I'll wait here for 2 more days. That's fine."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, Brandon.
So now I'm gonna have to ask, if you can say, what was it about Bryn Mawr? You're like, you did your research and you're like, nope, not going there.
If you look it up on the phone, you'll see articles talking about rape, sexual stuff, and like there with Jaco, it's still not fixed. And I had looked up facilities in North Carolina that I would or would not let London go to, and that was one.
Okay, so there's these reports out there. We'll call them allegations because I don't know what else to classify it. Everything. You always say allegedly today. How's that place still open?
I don't know. I mean, he was shocked that I had that information. And I mean, they probably do great things. It was probably an accident that happened, and then but that type of stuff, I'm not going to let my 12-year-old daughter go.
No, that's not happening.
Yeah, but
wow, thank goodness you did your research.
Yeah.
So y'all wait for.
So we wait. It's a total of 25 hours, and so I guess it was early afternoon that we got transported back up to the locked.
So a bed opens up there. Okay.
Yes, and she's there from 10:01 to 10:10.
Okay. And so while she's there, are y'all you're doing your research?
Yes.
Are you talking with insurance?
Yes. I literally, I have this book full of stuff that I was literally on the phone with facilities, insurance companies. I was doing Zoom meetings. I was talking to parents of facilities across the United States. We were still visiting her whenever we could. We were still doing all the stuff with the boys.
Yeah.
So yeah, it never stopped.
Yeah. So you know at this point that the end goal is that y'all are going to get to, and I don't want to mess up the name of the facility. So
Yes.
what is the name again?
Turning Winds.
Okay. So you know the end goal is Turning Winds. Are you trying to, is the hope that when she gets released, she's going to get released and go straight there?
At that time,
I mean, ideally, that's what would
yeah,
happen.
yeah.
But
At that time, we were, our mom and dad hearts were still being pulled to, are we doing the right thing?
yeah.
By, with your own child, you're like, can we have her at home and can we help her?
Can we keep her safe?
Can we keep
Sure.
her safe?
Yeah.
And so Brittany Todd, who had told us about Turning Winds, originally had a couple of weeks of leave herself, so we couldn't personally see her until 10/22. And so then I knew at that time that that's when me and my husband were going to make the actual call. Do we send her somewhere after talking to her? And so yes, Turning Winds was my number one after looking up 39 places across the United States. I did work with the insurance lady. She was great. Her name was Karen. And I looked at all the ones that she, was trying to help me with insurance. But, one was like an insane asylum, literally like in Maryland, for Maryland residents. And then some were only for boys, and London's a girl. Some were for like 15 to 17-year-olds. London's 12. So nothing,
Right.
or they wore like beacons on their wrist or their ankles like criminals.
Like
And,
house arrest.
yeah, and I didn't. That was not what London needed.
And are you calling these places
Yes.
as well? So
Yeah.
you're just like, she gives you a list,
Yes.
and you're calling, you're taking notes.
So
you're-
what I call health departments. I look at reviews online, and you're going to find this type of place. You're going to have negative reviews on
Right.
every single one of them. So what
Yeah.
I started doing was I literally made charts of comparing all the good reviews with all the places, comparing all the negative reviews with all the places, and truthfully looking and seeing what what type of kids they take there, and what
Right.
issues do most of these kids, and what are they dealing with? Is it suicide? Is it ADHD? Is it robbery? Whatever. I
Right.
mean,
yeah.
what types of kids
You
are
were
they?
really just looking at every option.
I was looking at
possible. I
everything.
mean, not to even be funny, but I feel like at some point your last straw is like to call Dr. Phil
Yeah.
and see if you can, what do we do here?
Yeah.
Because obviously he's got connections.
So
everywhere.
then on 10/22 is when we spoke with Brittany Todd, who I think really helped. We spoke with her for 90 minutes and talked a lot about Turning Winds and why it was going to be good for London. And London was right there with us. So after that, we knew that's what we wanted to try to do. Just because they have a lot more hours of therapy, and they don't do it where you're going to be sitting at this big table. They do it in different ways.
Right.
Most places that I spoke with had like 1 to 3 hours of therapy a week. This place, you get 6 hours at least of group therapy every day, every single day.
Wow.
Plus, you have individual therapy. It's in a beautiful location, which London really, she draws from where she's at. Like her favorite place is in the mountains of Georgia, the North Georgia mountains, and this
Okay.
is in Montana. It's not like a hospital facility. It's not like a school facility. It's more like a home,
Right.
a family.
Nice.
So you start looking at cost.
Yeah.
And you went into this a little bit earlier, but it's just like racking up.
Yeah.
So at this point, will you start looking at all this? Has she been accepted? Have y'all started the process of actually going through the?
I started that very early.
Okay.
Yes, I started doing all of to a bunch of different places. That way, if she wasn't accepted at Turning
Right.
Winds, because she was supposed to be 13. Turning Winds is 13 to 17. She's 12.
Okay.
So yeah, I did a bunch of applications to a bunch of different places.
And so y'all find out that she's accepted there. And then you obviously have to start figuring out logistics of how do we get her there? What's the cost? What is this recurring cost going to be? How long is she going to be there? So y'all are going through this whole process. And I mean, at this point, are you like, this is what she needs. She's willing to go. We've decided, like, we're just going to make it happen.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so once y'all make that decision, what's the next steps? Y'all are just setting up a time to take her, and what does this look like?
So 10/22, when we talked to Brittany Todd, that evening, London runs away.
Oh.
So we had pretty much that day decided, okay, London needs to go. Well, after the running away thing, that was a most definite.
And did she know, I didn't mean to interrupt, but did she know that day that y'all were pretty much like, she needs to go?
We've been very honest
then y'all
with her.
get home and
then she leaves. Yeah.
So you guys are out of the home and she was there, or like, were y'all upstairs and like all of a sudden you're like,
no, we had gotten to the point that if her brothers were outside, she could go outside for 3 to 5 minutes as long as she was in a view. And I was at the table actually with talking with my coworker who set up this GoFundMe. I was doing that at the moment.
Wow.
And she was like right in front of me, and we were talking, and then all of a sudden I don't see her, and I look, and she had turned off her location on her phone. And boom, she's gone.
So where did you find her?
So we
or how? I guess.
Okay, I start calling all the people, all the neighbors. My husband gets in his car. We tell her brothers, go look for her. And then I remember a couple of friends that London's closest to. And I call the friend's number. She doesn't answer. Call the mom's number. She doesn't answer. I call another friend. And finally she answers. And she's like, hey, Mom. And so then the mom gets on the phone. And she's like, yeah, I have her. And I'm like, okay, where are you? And she's like, well, she just needs a minute. And I'm like, where are y'all? And so she had tried to meet this other friend, and her mom came and picked them up without the mom even telling us. And so then I go get London, and then we never let her out of the house again until the time to take her.
Yeah.
But anyway, we decide to go to Turning Winds, and it's mainly when Turning Winds tells us is a good time, and you have to be there a certain time. It's 2 days and 13 hours away, so have to buy. I decide that transportation, we can't afford that. It's $8,000 to $15,000, and that's a pretty
for them to provide the transport.
Yes.
Okay,
and it was pretty. I mean, London wanted transport to take her. She didn't want me or her daddy to take her. She wanted transport. And do you know how that works?
So no. I do, but
okay.
No, please.
So transportation, if you get a company to have to take your child to a facility, you talk with that company, and then the evening that they're going to take them, they come and you finally meet them, like in the night sometime. And then in the middle of the night, they'll go into your child's room and basically tell the child who they are, not really where they're going, but who they are. And then they take your child.
Yeah.
And
it's a pretty traumatic experience
So wait a minute.
in itself. Yeah.
Isn't there like a TV show about this? Or wasn't there like a documentary about this situation?
I think you're thinking about like the Paris Hilton one. There was something with that where it was kind of the same deal.
Okay, yeah. Is it that kind of same
It's
situation?
probably that same
like they're
person.
very stern. There is no getting away from it. You're getting in this vehicle.
Yeah, you've paid them and they're coming to do
they're
their
coming
job.
to get you.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
So that's what y'all had to do.
No,
Okay.
no. London wanted to do that, but I said no.
She's like, nah, I think I can outsmart them.
I was like, yeah, we're not doing that.
Watch
so
this.
yeah, so London and I, we go on the 4th
Of November.
November.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember all the dates.
Yeah.
We go on the 4th.
I don't know how you've got all these dates in your head.
I don't know how you're here.
We go on the 4th, and we fly out to Spokane, Washington. And then we rent a car and go up to Bonners Ferry, Idaho, which I would move there in a heartbeat. I loved it. And then we spend the night. And the next morning, we go up to near Troy, Montana. And it's the most beautiful place in the whole wide world. I kept making London mad because I love taking pictures. And I would stop. She's, Mom, will you stop taking pictures? We have got to get there. And so then I'd make her get out of the car with me, of course, and take pictures. And she was like, Mom, we're going to get eaten by a bear or a wolf or something. And so then I take her and we get there and
It's just you two.
it's just us two. And so I guess the number one thing that really changed, that really, really made my husband and I feel good about this place was I spoke with 8 different families that had had children at this location. And I spoke with these people for anywhere from 45 minutes to like 3.5 hours and talked with the families just to get their perspective of Turning Winds. Turning Winds, everybody said as soon as you get there, it feels like a magical place. It just feels like a healing location. And everybody there seems like a big family. They literally, most people that work there, it's so far out that they spend about half of their week with this group of kids, and then a next whole group of staff come in for the next half of the week.
So they're living there. They're
right.
Yeah.
And so it's a close knit group of people.
So before you leave, like, what was it like for your husband and the boys to say goodbye?
Yeah. It was early in the morning, so nobody got up.
Makes it a lot easier.
The night before, it was fun. I mean, I don't know if we're just odd or what, but it seemed like the right thing.
Right.
I think everybody truly knew that she needs help.
Right.
And I think that everybody was happy to see that we were going the distance to do what she needs.
I'll say this, just this entire story and like Brandon asking that question about what was it like, and you're like, well, they didn't get up. You know, like I just keep imagining like you're talking about you being positive and like y'all working for solution stuff. Like, I mean, I just feel like she maybe with any other parents maybe wouldn't be where we are right now. Because I mean, it just sounds like y'all have just handled it so well. And I mean, it's just...
I'm a very type A person, and I'm telling you,
it's
I'm going to...
compartmentalized in a
Yeah.
way. Like, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now we've got practice. All right. Now we're doing dinner. Okay. I'm going to be on the phone for 3 hours talking insurance. Okay. And I'll see you in a minute.
Yeah.
You know? But I think with that type of mentality and that type of vision and focus and drive and personality, that has, like... I would be here. You were way stronger than I am. I would be a mess, like on the floor. You wouldn't be able to talk.
Yeah, well, that's what I was just.
But you're
thinking
so
about.
strong, and your family.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking about too. Just everybody handles things differently. I just been sitting here the whole time, just like I just don't know how I would have done all this.
You got to think of it like this: she's tried twice, and she's still here,
right?
Thankfully. And that's what I told my husband. I said, you just have to be thankful that her attempts didn't go through.
Right.
And so she's here, and you have to do everything that in your possibility of doing. Yeah. I looked at it like this. I have to do what's best for her. Yeah. And we have to do, even if this could be a lifetime thing. This could be a lifetime issue.
Yeah.
And, even if we can get her 5 years, 10 years, we've done our best.
Right.
Of course, we hope she has a whole lot longer than that.
Right.
And hopefully after going here, maybe it won't be as hard to deal with.
Yeah.
So is she? She's been at Turning Winds for almost 2 months.
No, one. So she's been there. 12/6 was 1 month now.
Okay. And are they reporting back like she's making such wonderful progress? She said no.
No, which is okay. So at Turning Winds, your minimum is 6 months.
Oh, okay. All right.
Your maximum is about a year and a half, because they figure if we can't help these kids, they've been doing it 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
If we can't help a child after a year and a half, maybe they need to go somewhere else.
There isn't somewhere else after this?
Well, there's all sorts of facilities like this.
Just a different facility.
Just different facilities.
So let me ask a question, and you can answer or not answer it, and this is probably getting to the GoFundMe stuff, but what does this cost a month, or is it 6 months at a
It's
time?
$475 a day.
Do you need your calculator over there?
So
how... You're probably going to answer this,
$15,000 a month.
But when are y'all... I'm assuming they're sending invoices. How are the invoices coming? Monthly,
so they
quarterly?
send it. I was able to pay until January. And then in January, we'll get a new email saying, okay, you owe this.
Okay.
Right now, because I think I am so type A, and I probably really got on the insurance people's nerves. And because Eric Loesch is so wonderful in the admissions of Turning Winds, that we did work out a single case agreement. It doesn't cover everything.
Okay.
But it does a whole lot better than $87,000 every 6 months.
That is that's a bunch.
So right now I have almost $19,000 that paid for until January.
Okay.
So the first bill was $18,000 and something.
Okay.
In January we'll find out how much more we owe.
So go ahead.
It's like, you know how insurance is. There's somebody in an office somewhere,
right,
reading London's notes and reading all these other children that are in these facilities, thinking, oh, it's not medically necessary anymore.
Right.
Instead of truly knowing what's going on with your kid. And at any point, I think they do an assessment like every 5 to 10 days. And at any point, they can come by and say, you know what? It's not medically necessary anymore. We're not covering anything.
I feel sure that their medical director, consultant at this insurance company, I feel like they're probably having a call every morning about what's going on with London. I feel sure. Yeah. So, which is sad too. I mean, you think people just would want to help and give people what they need.
No.
So
the answer is no.
The answer is no. So your reports, Brandon asked this. So y'all, there's not a lot of progress yet. I mean, I realize it's very early.
Yeah, it's very early, so it's not really expected yet.
Right. She's learning the routine. There's a honeymoon stage. There's a lot of stuff that's part of this. And
it is it's extremely regimented schedule, like from 7 a.m. every single morning till about, I think, 9:30 or 10 at night, which is lights out. It is get up, do your chores, go to breakfast, take medicine if you have any medicine to take, school. There's year-round school.
Okay.
Therapy, different therapy sessions, eat lunch, go back, do some more different types of therapy sessions. Monday through Thursdays are pretty busy for them. Friday mornings is school. And then on Friday afternoon, Saturdays and Sundays, they get to do all these different sorts of activities that they also incorporate group therapy in that the kids may or may not know what they're, you know.
How often do y'all get to talk to her?
So we talk to her once a week for 10 or 15 minutes on Saturday. Which is hard because before she left, I've never not talked with her.
Right.
And literally she's only been away for one night, like, except for when she was at the hospital before all this happened.
So how was it you telling her goodbye when you had to leave her there? What was that like?
She was fine. I was not.
Right.
Is this when it all kind of sunk in?
A little bit. Yeah. But what I did was I had my cell phone, which takes great pictures, and I stopped on the way at any point that I thought was absolutely beautiful and took pictures and listened to the silence.
Yeah.
So, so while she is in therapy, working on herself,
Mhm.
are you or any of the family seeking your own therapy to help
So
yourselves?
what Turning Winds does is on Sundays, and it's all different days for everybody. London's therapist, which is her individual therapist, also does family therapy with
Okay.
us. So every week we're getting an hour, hour and a half of family therapy. They've not incorporated her brothers yet. At first it was just me and David and the therapist, and now they're incorporating London into it a little bit more.
And do you think, are you guys benefiting from it? Like, is it helpful?
So, I mean, I think, to be honest, I think we probably need a little bit more, but I think we're kind of evaluating and assessing the situation and seeing kind of where this goes for a couple months.
Yeah, sure.
And then going from there.
Well, I think that you guys are getting help is fantastic.
Yeah.
Because I can imagine what you guys are dealing with. But also that you guys realize, hey, this is good, but we probably need something more is also a huge step too.
Yeah. I think it would benefit all of us, to be honest.
Oh.
Every single person sitting at this table
Yeah.
and listening.
Most definitely.
Therapy's a luxury.
That's why I work in mental health, so I can at least be around it, you know.
Right.
So we've kind of gotten through. So she's at the facility now. We will talk about the GoFundMe here shortly, but a few questions that I definitely wanted to ask. So now that we're here and you can say we've been through, here's what all we've been through. Now she's at the facility. Looking back, are there things that, this is going to be a several part question.
Okay.
So, are there things looking back, number one, that talking with other parents that you wish you would have seen earlier, or it's hard because you said she didn't show anything,
She didn't show. Yeah.
like, talking to other parents, I guess, can you look back now, and you said she didn't show anything. Looking back now, are there pieces that you can pick out now knowing what you know?
Yeah.
Had you been looking, would it have been some sort of a warning or a concern?
I think well, I don't really think in her case, but
Okay.
I think if your child has been like real excited and happy, and she's just always been a kind of a flat, steady
flat affect.
person.
Mhm.
I think if you saw a huge change in your child that's been very outgoing and happy and wanting to do a lot of stuff with friends, and I think her going to her room more and eating outside, like she didn't want to be with us, which we kind of thought, okay, she's just growing up. We all go through those odd phases.
Yeah.
But looking back, that would be one of my main things, is if your child completely changes from being outgoing and fun to just going to your room and not wanting to come out and not wanting to do the activities.
Right.
Or even to your point about the summer, the pool.
Yeah.
Not wearing the bathing suit, or, not being involved. Looking back, I would have thought too, well, she's a young girl, she's turned into a woman, maybe, body conscious, of course.
Right.
Right. But then,
Yeah, I do. I think, looking back, I think it would be beneficial to, maybe sneak a little bit through your children's rooms, not to where they don't trust you, but like you said, if a journal is open, look in it. If their phones, which we all have the same passcode on our phones, because we've always told our children, hey, if we have anything that we want to look at, we're going to look at, because they're our phones. And all of our kids have always been okay with that. So yeah, I think doing all that stuff is not a bad thing.
This is totally, I was just thinking about this, like with the phones and whatnot. Did y'all do like a laptop, iPad, or phone search? Did she ever like look for ways? Have y'all done like an internet search? Like, did she research how to?
I think she saw it all on social media. So that's another big thing.
I was going to ask. Yeah.
So I think, to be honest, if I was to go, and this is me and my husband both, I think if we were to go back, we gave each of our children a cell phone, a used one, the summer before middle school. Most of their friends had them in elementary school, but we didn't do that. I probably wouldn't give our children cell phones until they get their license.
Okay.
I really feel that cell phone, social media. I feel like social media is like the death of society, to be
100%.
honest.
I
I
agree
think,
1,000,000%.
I think it's really hurt society as a whole. I think kids don't know how to communicate. I think kids are seeing stuff that they shouldn't see that are more adult content that they don't know how to handle. So,
And
yeah.
there's a reason, like, the people who invented certain apps and social media platforms don't allow their children on them.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do. I wish I would have.
Well, you know, and with kids, I mean, their brains are developing. They don't know what their identity is, and they're seeing people basically tell them
Right.
what they should be.
Right.
You know, and it's just, I have a lot of issues with social
Yeah.
media
Yeah.
too. Obviously, we all use it, but still, I mean, but
I
as
think
adults,
as an
it's
adult,
different.
you know, and
Yeah.
know, and I think as a child, your brain is your waves
Right.
are they're still forming. And I guess the only other thing I saw with London, the night that she had attempted suicide, this necklace right here, it was one of her favorites, and she was like, "Hey, Mom, do you want this? I don't think I'm going to wear it anymore." I was the only, and I was like, "You don't want it?" And she said, "No, I don't think I'm going to wear it." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, if you don't want it, I'll take it."
Right.
Nothing
Well,
else.
I mean, why would you?
Nothing
you know?
else.
I mean, so another piece of that kind of, thank you for telling the parents that too. But so you've got a lot of books with you.
Yes.
What's something? What are some things that have been helpful for you? And part two of that is, what are some things you learned by going through the mental health insurance route that you think would have been helpful had you already known it?
Yeah. Well, personally, I think I think there needs to be something going from a lockdown behavioral health unit. I think there needs to be like a step down transition. There needs to be a better transitional period. Something to check up on. Hey, parents, are y'all doing this? And this is what's here for you. Not just, and I love the people there. They were great, but just not, okay, bye.
See ya.
Yeah.
See ya. Because then it's like,
Good luck. Make a safety plan.
Yeah.
See ya.
well, with Turning Winds, what's made me feel good is anything that's going on with London, I have printed it out. Talking about all the school, any letters that I get from her, I print out, so I can see her progress.
Yeah, I was going to say, if there's any,
So I can see her progress. So she has written us, they physically write every Tuesday. And then it goes into an app on our phone for us to read on Wednesday. And if there's too heavy of content, then it's held for the therapist to speak about. And London's has been held a couple times.
Okay.
And the last time,
but they will release it to you.
yeah.
Okay.
And then the last time the therapist had London read it out loud to us.
Oh.
And London was like, I don't want to read it. And she said, exactly. So that's what kind of makes me feel good is doing all this. And the only reason why I have these books is because of Turning Winds. The parents have a Facebook page, and we also have every other Tuesday a Zoom meeting with all the parents that want to be part of it. And their big thing is reading these books and figuring out how you're going to change yourself when your child gets home, because your child's doing their part, at this facility. So what are you doing? Because something wasn't working. Something happened. And to be honest, she can't come home to a house that is exactly the same.
Right.
My husband and I have to change, and the boys have to be on
Sure.
Right.
too.
So those books are books that have been recommended to you that you guys are currently going through.
Yes.
To just, the end goal obviously is for her to come home.
Yes.
So a lot of these books are, how are y'all going to be when she gets home?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've read, and the therapist is like, wow, y'all have really done your homework.
Yeah.
So we've already read The Parallel Process, which is great. It's growing alongside your adolescent or young adult child in treatment. And so, like I said, your child's here. You've got to also change.
Right.
You can't be the same. And then
Yeah.
all these not by chance, and then leadership and.
And we'll before you leave, I want to get all these titles. We'll post those for people as some things that they can look at too. Are you getting ready to ask something?
Well, I was going to say, are they trying to get or like to the root cause? Do you think we'll ever get there?
They said they may never get. It just depends on her.
It depends on her.
I think a lot of it was. I think there was some bullying.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, and I think there was some things online. I'm not going to get into some of that stuff, but they're going to try to get to the root cause of everything. But I think it was very layered. That's kind of what they've used. The terminology is layered. And I think it was such a long 3-year process that London was a great actress and didn't tell us. And really, I guess what really made me have a red light was like, we've got to get her some help, was me and her were in the Jeep and she looked happy. And I looked at her and I said, London, is this, does this feel good to do this? Or sing our songs, have our windows down, the wind blowing against your face. And I said, are you happy? And she said, Mom, I'm just going to be honest with you. She said, I don't know what happiness feels like. She said, I don't ever remember feeling happy. She says, I'm numb. I don't know what that feels like. I said, so you mean when we go to Florida, when we're swimming in the pool, when we go to Carowinds, when we go to Great Wolf Lodge? I said, you don't feel happy? And she said, I don't know what it feels like. And so that was my big red flag, was we've got to do something.
Right. Yeah, we got to do something.
Yeah. So let's talk about the GoFundMe, the cause, because one of the reasons that I reached out to you, my wife shared the story. I didn't know it was going on, and my wife shared the story, and I called Brandon pretty much right after that, and I was like, we got to do something. And the way we always work is like, all right, we're going to do a big fundraiser. We're going to, and then we're like, I don't know. There's got to be something. And then I saw the GoFundMe page. So it was already established. It seems like it's gotten great support. People are sharing. Obviously, it has raised money, but obviously there's a long way to go.
Yeah.
And my big thing was, we've had children in this community that have committed suicide. There's been numerous kids that have come through my clinics that this has unfortunately happened to. Everybody always says, like, I wish I would have known. Mm-hmm. I wish we would have known. We could have done something, And my whole thing with this is like, well, guess what? Now we do know. Mm-hmm. And this is one that instead of being like, I wish we would have known, we do know now.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So for me, it's like, we know. Here's what we can do. We can spread this link. We can get people to help financially and see if, we can keep her in this place that hopefully can figure out what's going on. And the fact that, number one, that you guys shared it with the community says a whole lot about you and your husband. A lot of people want to keep these things private, try to fight it themselves, and it just doesn't work that way.
No.
So thank you guys for being brave enough to bring this out, for London being brave enough to go through this process and try to get help. So that's why we called. That's what we want to do. We want to spread this link. We want to help you guys. So that was just, I wanted to say that, like, it's always, I wish we would have known, and now we do. So I hope that people that are watching this, we'll share the link repeatedly. You can reach out to us. I hope that, this does make some impact. I hope that it helps people that might be going through the same thing, or somebody that's scared to talk about it, or if a kid sees this, like, just talk to somebody.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So many people have reached out privately to me saying, well, I was suicidal, or my child, or it's amazing how many people actually have gone through this or are going through this that you would have no clue. I mean, I met somebody at work yesterday that talked about it, that was, he's probably in his early 40s, that, well, maybe late 30s, that, he tried back in 2020.
Wow.
And when he was a teenager, and he openly talked with me about it.
Yeah.
So it's
I feel like
amazing.
we're to a point now where mental health, depression, suicide, everyone knows either a family member, a friend, someone that it's affecting.
Yeah.
It's tough. And I mean, like I said earlier, I'm not the type of person to ask for help. I
Right.
never have been.
Yeah.
My mom and dad, they taught me how to be very, take care of myself, very independent. But when I was out of work and got a paycheck of $29, and then the rest were zero, I was like, oh. So I did get back with Linda Trimble, who was the one that set up the GoFundMe. I was like, okay, Linda, yes, you can do it now. And I didn't want to, but she's like, Danielle, she said, people that don't or can't or don't want to help are just going to pass by it. It's fine. But the people that do want to help,
Right.
she said, let them help, Danielle.
Yeah.
And I was like, and that kind of stuck with me. And I was like, okay. Because I've even had some family say, you should do this on your own. You shouldn't be out here, promoting this. You should. And I'm like, I guess it helps me to talk about London.
Right.
Sure.
In our situation, because I do around the holidays, it's a hard time for mental health and for families in general.
It
A
is.
lot of the times, it should be the happiest, but for a lot of the families, it's
the
not.
hardest.
Yeah,
it is.
it's real hard for addicts and people who have mental health issues at the holidays. Even if you're, you coming on here and talking, like you just said, this could help a parent, this could help a kid, and that's another reason that we do things that we do like this. So.
And I love the title, and I don't remember things well, and I will butcher something, but I feel like the GoFundMe page is actually, it's called Keeping London Alive, right?
I think so, something like that.
So, for me, that kind of just sums it up. Like, if you are watching this, people, we will share it. Help London Stay Alive is what it's called, and it's a picture of her. And we'll share it. We'll share the QR codes, the links with everybody. Please spread this around. I hope that this makes enough impact to where London, years from now, looks back and realizes how many people care about her and your family. And I just hope I really hope she understands how much you guys care about her and love her, that y'all went through all this. And I hope that she can see how big of an impact she has made for people. And she's a brave, strong little girl too.
Yeah,
so
she is.
So I don't even know what else to say. I'm kind
and
of.
for anybody else who's out there listening who's suffering, there is someone who loves you and there is someone who cares about you, even though you don't think they do.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Cooper, our middle one, when this first was happening, and he saw how many people reached out and positive thoughts, prayers. We had a neighbor not ask if she could bring food, but just say, I am doing this, and brought food.
Right.
Here's food.
He was like, Mom. And in the GoFundMe, when it started raising a little bit of money, he was like, Mom, I didn't realize how much people cared, and they still care these days.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's still some good folks out there.
Yeah.
There's still a few.
Yeah.
So,
was there anything that we haven't asked, we didn't cover, anything that you want to share?
Let's see. I was going to go over some quotes.
Sure.
Yeah.
So my quote, the golden rule, treat others how you want to be treated. Let's see. You never know what someone else is going through. So be nice. Small acts of kindness. Smile at someone. Open a door. Pay for a kid's lunch bill at school. Any small acts of kindness. Live day by day. With the future in the mind and insight, but concentrate on the now. Let's see. Life is short. Always find at least one positive thing every single day, even in your worst day. No one can make you happy. Happiness comes from within. And also, besides these books, there's 2 more that I was going to get: Journey of a Heroic Parent and Stop Walking on Eggshells. And the number one, I don't know if y'all are religious or not, but Trust in God Above.
Yeah. I think that sums it up for me.
Yeah. Great quotes. And those are things that everyone basically knows or I've heard.
Yeah.
Right.
It just
But
has,
it's
just have to remember and kind of slow down sometimes and just,
We go through these trainings, like my staff, we have these annual trainings where it's, we have to have it in order to build, but it's basically like, I'm not going to say what one we use, but it's like crisis management type stuff. And I'll be teaching these classes and I'm going through this stuff and I'm reading it and I'm teaching it and I'm just there thinking like, why do I have to tell people this? It's so simple.
Right.
And I say every time I do it, like, y'all, golden rule.
Yeah,
like just treat others nicely, and I mean that's all you have to do.
You just don't know what somebody else is going through.
Right.
And especially kids. Kids are so mean. Just be nice to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on here, telling your story. We will do all we can to help spread it.
Thank you.
And
Thank
when
you.
next time that you guys talk to London, please let her know that we're in Statesville. We're here thinking about her and you guys. And
I definitely will.
and we'll spread it. And thank you so much. And you and your husband are some brave, good people.
Well,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.
See ya.